there's tons of benefit to the military from a business perspective, and having discipline and routine and structure is a huge one of them.
Huge.
So if I have opportunity to hire somebody that's been in the military in any capacity, they get an extra point, right? The likelihood, and certainly not true that they're necessarily going to be good,
right?
But there's an extra likelihood.
They get an extra point.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm going to consider them a little bit further.
Yeah.
How do you think how does that play into training people when you bring them on?
One of the things that we learned in the military is that every training should be done at the 5th grade level. And I've trained thousands of people over the years through my companies and through consulting in sales and management. Everything should be taught at a 5th grade level, because too many times when people are talking, you've probably met people like this or watched them, they talk so far above everyone that the people that they're talking to don't get it. And here's one of the things we know about people. So if I'm having a conversation with you and I say something that you don't understand, what does your mind do?
I'm gone.
You stop.
Yep.
Because your mind's now saying, what did he just say? And you're trying to figure it out in your mind. You're going through the motions. But the problem is I'm still talking. And so you're trying to figure out what I said a few minutes ago. And by the time you re-engage with me, you've missed the last 3 or 4 minutes of what I've said. And I tell salespeople this all the time. That might have been the most important thing you needed to say, and they weren't listening to you anymore. So you can't talk above people. And when you do, you tend to lose them, and this is how you lose a sale. So the military taught us, 5th grade level, very simple. When I write my books, they're very, very basic, right? That was probably the biggest lesson I got out of the military from that perspective.
How do you think the rigidity in your approach to business, and you talk about running things from the P&L, running a P&L, what's the overlap there? Is there a tie? Do you think that you learned that structure from the military? Do you think that you had that innately?
I don't know. I mean, obviously, I think the military brings that structure. I tend to break things down into very small pieces, the same way they teach you in the military, right? It's very small pieces, it's small sections. I need you to learn this section. I need you to get good at it, and then we're gonna move on. You also do this when you teach people. So I've watched you do it, and you've probably not noticed, but now that I say it, you'll watch. Even when I talk to you, I'll say something to you, and then I'll stop. And I give your brain a chance to engage with what I just said before I go on to the next thing. So for instance, we were talking earlier today, to give you an example, and I was talking about the restaurant business. And one of the things I threw out there were some numbers, right? And I said, look, your labor needs to be 28, your food needs to be 28, your liquor needs to be 22, and your rent needs to be 10. And then I stopped, because I want you to process those numbers before I continue talking. Otherwise, you're not going to listen to anything I said after that, because that's some technical stuff that you need to digest. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
So that's the way you teach. And even the next thing we always tell people when you're teaching is, they're going to remember 30% of what they hear, 50% of what they see, and 80% of what they put into practice. So whenever you teach, you should not only talk, but you should write. And not only write, but then you should, we'll do sessions where people come up and actually do it themselves, because once they engage with the idea, the retention goes through the roof. And this is why I tell people in sales training all the time, the more you talk, the less they hear. If they're only going to retain 30% of what they hear, then you need to shut up, say a few important things, and then stop. Otherwise, they're not going to remember what you said anyway.